is to provide, promote, or facilitate municipal services that meet the community needs by preserving, supporting, and enhancing quality of life for all. The agenda is before you. Is there any additions or deletions? Hearing none, would someone like to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. The next is a delegation or presentation by St. Mary's Bay Protectors. Could I have a motion for them to come forward and do their presentation, please?
I move that St. Mary's Bay Protectors make their presentation to council.
And is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded. What we ask you to do is wear your mask up. Once you're seated, please take off your mask, and the mics are on, and we ask you to talk into the mics because everything needs to be recorded. Thank you so much. Thank you. And then once you're sitting down, I need you to both introduce yourselves for the records. So I have you both are records.
My name is Rick Wallace.
My name is Gwen Wilson.
So, Council, we haven't seen you for a while. It's nice to see you all again, and congratulations to the newest council member, who I seem to know. Thank you for letting us speak with you today. We actually, as you know, we're St. Mary's Bay Protectors. You had seen us a few years ago when we were here to discuss CERMAC and the expansion of open net finfish farming in St. Mary's Bay. And we want to talk today a little bit about the proposal by Cook's Hatcheries for Centerville. And we have a number of issues and discussion points we'd like to chat with you about. So in the next few minutes, if you, Kyle, I'll just go like that. Tyler, brother. We're just going to just give a brief background on us, then just briefly talk on the proposal by Cooks and CERMAC. Gwen's going to talk about some of the environmental questions that need to be asked here. I will talk a few about the economic. We will approach the issue of due diligence, which is what we're saying is a governance issue, and the request for cooperation from yourselves. So, that'll become more apparent as we go on. Just really quickly, 2 years ago we came, it was December 2019, I believe. And we were here because CERMAC had wanted to put had a proposal for a number of sites in St. Mary's Bay. We outlined what we believe were some of the environmental consequences of that, particularly on the fisheries in St. Mary's Bay. As you remember, there were a couple of hundred people here. There were over 6,000 people that signed the petition. It was quite a rousing display from people around Southwest Nova and the Neck who were not in favor of it. That hasn't really changed. However, what we want to be clear before we start off with is that we've never stood against jobs. We think jobs are always important. And we think preserving jobs, which are lucrative jobs, is also important. And to be clear, just to be clear, we're not opposed to land-based aquaculture. That's different. Let's be clear. The Cook proposal is for hatchery that's land-based. Their operations are still open net, open water. So that we don't support. So what are our concerns about the hatcheries? And what are our concerns about how we would like council to approach this, certainly in the future, in an act of cooperation with us and with constituents? So there's a number of issues that need to be addressed and should be addressed and should actually be addressed before decisions are taken. So with that, I'm going to let Gwen raise some environmental questions that we think need to be answered.
So, as you will recall, we had written to you earlier in February with some of our concerns, and mostly those concerns remain the same. As with open net pen, there's concern with the effluent that comes from the fish. Now, as Rick has just stated, this is a land-based hatchery, as all hatcheries that support fish farms are. They're all basically on land. But we have questions about how that hatchery will operate and what is to be done with the effluent that comes from it. As well, we have concerns about the amount of fresh water that it's going to use. So, for instance, how much fresh water does the hatchery intend to use? That information is not in the application to which the public was invited to comment up until February 12th. None of that information is there, nor are the answers to any of these questions in that application. So how much fresh water does it intend to use? How much salt water does it intend to use? Because the last phase of the raising of the smolts requires salt water in addition to the fresh water that's required for the first 3 stages of their growth. What are the plans for this use or the disposal of solid waste? As with our earlier presentation about the fish farms, fish produce a lot of solid waste, and solid waste from 3 million fish approximately equals a solid waste sewage of approximately 300,000 people annually. So, what's going to be done with that solid waste? What would be done with any liquid effluent produced? Hatcheries also, just like open net fish farms, have outbreaks of diseases, one of them infectious salmon anemia, and they have to use antibiotics and pesticides to deal with those outbreaks. All the drugs and chemicals that they might be using would end up into any of the water that's discharged from the plant. What is the impact, the potential impact of that effluent on shellfish aquaculture that's currently undertaken in St. Mary's Bay, such as the quahogs or the future planned cultivation of oysters? Recently, in the Tri-County Vanguard article of January 20th, Joel Richardson stated that the planned sewage treatment plant would be, quote, essentially the same as any waste treatment system used by any municipality to remove nitrogen and phosphorus from the liquid waste. So, as far as we've been able to ascertain, that is the only piece of information that describes the sewage treatment that is proposed for this hatchery. So, if that's all it's going to remove, then there would still be other harmful substances in any liquid effluent that is discharged from the plant. So, in the treatment of those liquid wastes, is that water, after it's treated in their proposed facility, is that water going to be recirculated in the plant and reused in the hatchery? We don't know, but we'd like to know. If it's not going to be reused as water in, for instance, the Sustainable Blue completely land-based facility is almost over 99% of their water is recirculated in their tanks. Is this water going to be recirculated, and if not, why not? So perhaps you have some other information in addition to that statement about the sewage treatment that is planned that you could offer. In addition, when the fish move from their freshwater stage to their saltwater stage, you're going to have brackish saltwater that is also going to be an effluent, and we would like to know where is that brackish saltwater going? Is it going to be discharged into the bay? What is going to happen with that? And we understand that in hatcheries, when freshwater has been used, or rather in treatment plant, when freshwater has been treated, they cannot also treat the saltwater in the same way. They can't treat it in the same facility. What public and science-based evidence can you offer that determines any impact on the water table itself? There's a huge amount of water that's going to be required to raise fresh water that's going to be required to raise 300 million fish. 3 million fish, rather, not 300 million. And we're concerned that that amount of fresh water withdrawn from the North Mountain basalt, which is the primary aquifer in Digby Neck, that might have an impact not only on local residences, wells, as well as commercial businesses in the area, for instance, the Gidney fishery plant in Centerville, as well as other fish plants, Little River, and going down, because that aquifer is a huge aquifer which supplies the water for all of our communities on Digby Neck. In addition, should the water contained in that aquifer become threatened, what will happen, what could happen to Lake Midway? in itself. So we need to have assurances about that. And I understand in statements also made by Joel Richardson that they do plan to dig test wells to determine the flow and the amount of recharge that the aquifer would get with water being continually withdrawn from it, and how long that recharge would take, and a lot of questions like that. But again, none of that information is available to us, so we can't make an informed judgment on a process that we have so little information for. So given the potential impacts that the hatchery may have and could possibly have on our communities, our population, our business, your constituents, we are concerned that not having the answers to these questions makes it very difficult to make an informed decision on supporting such an endeavor.
So just to be clear what she was saying there, and I'm going to, we're coming to you with three primary concerns. I'm about to talk about the jobs, but just want to be clear. There are questions of effluents that are not answered, and there's no information to answer it on. There's questions about the amount of water usage, which is not clear. There are questions of the aquifer and contamination, which are not being answered. And there is sewage treatment, which has the possibility of polluting marine environments. None of those questions are answered. The proposal that is being put out is practically vacuous in our ability to do any sort of assessment about it. So, let me just go on then, quickly, to economics, because that seemed to have been something that was important to local leaders. 14 to 18 direct, but as well as including indirect. So let's just be clear, what does that really mean? Indirect can be a truck picking something up. It can be somebody taking away sewage from the actual plant. It can be somebody monitoring something. Indirect, direct, details, no details. It would be good to have some sort of written assurances from the company when they put out the proposal before council decides to endorse it so quickly. Due diligence. Thank you so much. We're suggesting that actually the council has a responsibility of due diligence, which is to fully research and have the facts available before decisions are made to endorse or to encourage or support a project like this. So what that means is that we've raised questions here today which have come from leading people in the field that we've talked to around the province and elsewhere. Those answers should have been given and made available, and you should have them before us appearing. And that's proactive research before decisions are made, not research after the fact. There should be specific details of the proposal, not simply the kind of proposal that was made which becomes literally impossible for citizens and constituents to do an evaluation of it, but also for yourselves. And really, the question is, where is the environmental and economic evaluations you've done, together with the research, that would support the position that you've taken so far? This is called due diligence. And behind that is the idea of precautionary principle, which that you don't do anything that's going to cause harm. But we've raised questions here, of which there are not answers, which yet this project is being encouraged. And so you actually, at this point, because there's a lack of research and scientific answers to the questions we've raised, you're not actually following the do no harm precautionary principle. And we think that is a question of due diligence, which we believe you need to strengthen. So, we've come here before to talk to you about responsibility, accountability, and transparency. We actually, to tell you the truth, would have expected that the proposal would have come with details, that you actually would have done proactive communication with the communities, including ourselves, before decisions were being made. That hasn't happened. We weren't invited. We were barely told about this. But yet decisions have been made. And the information is not out there. There hasn't been proper consultation, nor public conversations. And lastly, we are the constituents. I hate to say it, but you kind of work for us. We don't work for you. You work for us. You are fundamentally responsible to your constituents. And I can tell you, as one constituent, I don't feel respected, and I've said this before when I've come before council. When these issues come up, we have not been invited. There's not been transparency. There's not been accountability. So what we'd kind of like to do, because this seems like a repeat of what we faced before, we'd like to think that we can actually have a relationship of cooperation. So we put questions to you that we think you should answer, and that you should see us as allies rather than simple opponents. So the last thing is that we think the council should clearly state a commitment to engage in forms of due diligence. There should be a clear commitment to public engagement. There should be a commitment to proactive invitations on matters of interest that you are aware that there will be constituents who are actively interested in that. That the council publicly investigate the concerns and planning concerns that we've raised in this presentation. And the council report back with some solid answers in the next 4 weeks. So, do you have anything else to add?
No, I just would like to underline and reinforce what Rick said, that we would like to be able to collaborate, cooperate, and support the endeavors of council, and that it would have been very much different if we perhaps had a little bit more knowledge about what was actually planned and involved before we read it in the newspaper.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Now I will respond, then I'll let any council wish to respond. First of all, this is a province decision, not a municipal decision. The questions that you're asking has to go to the province, not to us. The other questions you can ask for Cooks, you will ask Joel Richardson, and we can give you his mailing address, email, and phone number. So, and this project has been in effect since 2012, that they have been looking at a hatchery in this area. What we were asked by Cooks, if we wanted to send a letter in support to the government, which this council decided it did. And most of your questions, I believe, if you talk to Cooks, you'll find answered. The other thing that Cooks does have, they have a group that they have asked people to join so that they can keep you apprised of what they are doing. The day that came out, Cooks found out that morning it was coming out, and and they let the mayor and myself know, and that's how fast the notice was. It was out in the paper before we knew.
Yeah, I'm not going to respond to you, Linda. Unless there's a direct question from somebody or comments, I'm not going to argue with you.
Well, I'm not asking you to argue. I'm
Yes,
just
but
giving
I
you.
fundamentally disagree with you, so
Okay.
we just have to remain like that. That's
But
unfortunate.
I'm just saying, if you want the information.
Linda, we know where to get it, please. We know where to. We've been in touch with Joe Richardson. Hearts, this has all been going
Didn't know
on.
that.
But in fact, and I am responding, the issues, the environmental issues, if you're prepared to take an endorsement, if you're prepared to send a letter of support, and if you even get any notice to due diligence, those answers aren't on the table. It's not for us. We didn't write a letter. We're not the ones supporting it. We're simply raising questions, actually, of which you don't have answers for. So that is the fundamentals of this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions?
This is the third time they've announced this project that I thought was 10 years. I thought it was before I got elected.
It was.
All right, I've been elected for 10 years, so it'll be like 12 years now. But this, I just wonder that this will even happen, and I wonder if there's a connection with there being a new leadership, a new premier, which is what this might really be about. Big announcements of hundreds of jobs in a new premier and a controversial industry. I just wonder if that might be what's going on rather than anything actually happening, because this is the third time they've said this that I know of over the last decade, and I tend to think it's just like the announcements of hundreds of jobs in Shelburne, that it's for domestic political consumption, and it's not really about.
Well,
It might well be, David, but we would like to reiterate, whatever happens here, we're actually raising also issues of process, right? So
and I had a meeting with the committee that meets with Cooks and listened to what they were telling us.
That's not what I was talking about, sorry.
Oh, I
No,
apologize.
it's okay. No, it's okay. I'm actually talking about due diligence, the actions and outreach, proactive communication by council to constituents, and the transparency around it. We raised it on that last slide, if you remember, on due diligence, and also asking for the commitments about information. We raised this last time, and we'd like to reiterate it. So, yeah, we're coming to you with environmental questions, and we're asking for some answers. And David's right, might not happen, might. It could be very problematic. But what we're also talking about is governance issues. Governance, which is whatever issue we're talking about here. It's about outreaching publicly and transparently to us, your constituents. And we're letting you know that that's not happening. That's all. We've said it before. We're saying it again.
And I'm saying thank you, but it was a provincial, not a municipal. So thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. We appreciate you giving us your opinion. That is how it works, and that's how it should work.
Thank you, council, all of you, for listening to us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Next is the minutes of January 25th, 2021. Is there any errors or omissions?
I motion to approve the minutes of January 25th, 2021.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Unfinished business from minutes of January 25th. Is there anything you want to bring forward?
Sorry. Never. Yeah, I just saw something. I'm interrupting you in the wrong part of the meeting. Continue. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Anyone have anything to bring up in unfinished business? Okay. The next is the CAO report, and it's meeting reminders. Please make sure you note it that the meeting for council is March 29th, not 22nd. March 1st, bylaw and policy. March 8th, committee of the whole. March 15th, bylaw and policy. March 29th, council.
Could you say that? What did you say at the beginning that there was a time the council wasn't on? What time did you say at the beginning?
I said it's the 29th, not the 22nd.
Oh, okay.
Just want to make sure everyone picks up on that. In April, we will be meeting on Tuesday the 6th. Tonight, and I believe it's there, we have to make a motion that we are changing our, or is it in March we make that motion?
In March.
Sorry, I apologize. In March that we'll be changing, and that's why that has been changed to April the 6th.
I thought it was because it was Easter Monday. I thought we were just...
That was changed because of Easter Monday.
Oh, okay.
That's why that was changed before we made the motion.
Oh, all right. Apologize. See, that's what you get when I read it over and how I looked at it. The next was action items from previous minutes.
I'd just like to make a comment on the CA report. I saw that you guys had talked to Chris Donchewant. I thought that was where I saw I think I read it. I don't know if now's the time to bring it up.
I spoke to Chris for a very short time. Actually, I only was able to speak to him on the phone and just reiterated how important it was that the buoys stay in place and the foghorn, and how important it was.
How long ago? Was it before we got that last letter?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
The MP was very good and set up a meeting very quickly and heard us out and had experienced similar challenges in his own community. Unfortunately, I have to slide through the package, but that other email I think came in last week, so that's a follow-up to our letter and after the MP had tried to slow things down.
Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a body from a periwinkler wash up on the north shore of Long Island. And those are the guys that use the fire fog alarms.
Was it a periwinkler from The
From
island?
Grand Manan.
Oh, from
It had fallen
Oh,
in and
okay.
drowned. But just to give you an idea, those, and they also, on the islands, it's a cultural thing. They use these little boats, and they go along, find these little coves. They have no machinery on them at all, and they also use those little boats for food fishery.
Oh,
And so they're also out there, hand line. You're allowed, I don't know, 20 fish or something, and people go out and catch 20 fish. And I just feel like these guys haven't got a clue about the culture down there. Is it all right if I wouldn't mind, maybe, I don't know. I don't want to
we spoke.
just give up.
No, but Chris said he did understand, and we did explain about the small boats, and we did go over that. And Chris says it's the same thing down at his end.
And they got rid of them for no
But
success
he was still
yet.
going to fight
They
to
lost
try.
theirs in the same round that we lost Point Prick.
Okay, so.
That first round 2 or 3 years ago.
Actually, it's been longer now.
Yeah,
Wow.
sorry, could be longer.
But he said he was going to try. But
Maybe.
he said the one thing we had to remember is what side of the government he's on.
I know. So maybe
Yeah.
I got some personal connections with for the Minister of Fisheries. Maybe I could beat that bush a little bit just to see if it's even worth.
Are you talking federal?
Yes.
If you want us to write a letter to the federal fisheries.
No, I might just talk to somebody on my own and ask for advice on this one that works in the office.
You
for the
can't be
fisheries.
calling them on behalf of the
No,
council.
on myself, on behalf of the local islanders. I've got people dropping off little notes and things like that they want me to pass on.
Just so you know, it's something that council will deal with to the best of our ability, David,
Oh.
and we will help you any way we can. But
Alright.
you just can't.
Mm.
You understand? You
Yeah,
can't be
but-
writing letters
I don't know.
as
I'm
a
just,
counselor.
there might be other routes that we haven't.
And if you can come up with any,
I got a couple.
we will certainly go that route. I
I'll
mean,
talk to you.
you know, we can write the feds as well. I mean, we did talk to the MLA, which was what our direction was.
I would like to take it to the next step, and maybe I could write a couple things after speaking directly with the ones that I've been talking to about the periwinklers. First. Maybe I can tell them maybe.
If you want to get
Greater
something ready and
detail
send it to us, then we will move on with it.
All right. Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That way it comes from council.
Mhm.
I really appreciate that.
All right.
And we want, we would add it into our letter with it as attachments.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, what is that noise?
Is that?
What's that?
That was my phone. Normally it's turned off.
No, I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe it was time for something.
Time
Time for a break.
Time for a break, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Don't for me to mute my phone.
okay, what do we need to know? Well, our new transit bus, as was already mentioned, is coming in late spring of 2021. The paving's been completed. The airport beacon light is installed. We, reminds me, Highway 217 sewer extension pre-design. We have nothing on that as yet.
So that's, you can see that indicates a partial billing.
Yeah.
So we are hoping the first phase of engineering won't be the full 60 in this year,
Mhm.
but we are hoping that, or in early March, for probably the second bylaw policy in March, we will have something to review with council there, and that billing will be complete or closer to $10,000.
Okay. Any other
I guess the only
action
other,
items you want to bring forward?
the lagoon divider, I think that's been on the capital project list, I think for at least 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
So that has been installed, we're just working on the billing with the town of Digby.
Mhm. Okay. Things seem to be going really well. The next is the financial report.
A motion to approve January payables of $457,236.90.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
Lots of seconds. All in favor?
Get these bills paid.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Income and expense report was there. Any questions or concerns? No? Oh, okay. The next, from our bylaw and policy meeting, was the Friends of Farrell funding request. Would someone like to,
I move that we give $2,000 to the Friends of Farrell's.
I'll second that.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. The next was the access to the weather station for third parties.
I move access for the weather station information to third parties, that we allow it.
I'll second that.
Okay, to the raw data.
Yes.
Let's make sure. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. The next, from the Committee of the Whole, was the Tobiatic Wilderness Committee funding request.
I motion to approve the $100 funding request for the Tobiatic Wilderness Committee.
Is there a second? Second.
I'll second that.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. The next was to send a letter of concern to Wren regarding areas with children in the school requiring internet services.
Good letter to write.
Could I have a mover?
I'll move that.
Can we have a seconder?
I'll second
Any questions? Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Boy, are we moving on
it.
here.
Do you think it'll actually make
I think
any
we should
difference?
go back and argue some more.
No, but you think it'll make any difference if,
Well, we'd already discussed it,
Yeah.
but
I guess me and Dave weren't here that night. Okay.
oh, okay, sorry. Next is the business items. Digby Municipal Fires Association request for phone. Could someone move that to our budget process, please?
I motion to move the dry hydrants of 2,700 to our
Oh, that was a different one.
Phones.
phones
4.1.
to our budget process.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. The next again is the Digby Municipal Fire Hydrant request for the dry hydrant for this past year and this coming year.
Yeah.
And due to COVID, it didn't happen.
Is that gonna go to our budget process too?
Yes.
So if I could, I don't know that we need a motion, but if staff could be allowed to get in touch with the fire association over this one, I think there may be a bit of confusion. So we have already cut a check for one dry hydrant this year.
So they can just go use it.
They already have the money.
Well, they must have got mixed up.
That's it.
Oh.
I think there's a bit of confusion. It happened back in May. So they've already got, and we have been regularly budgeting for one a year on the dry hydrants. So we just want to communicate a little bit with them to just make sure we're on the same page, or whether their letter needs to say.
The reason being, they
Yeah.
didn't use it last year. I don't think they realized they got money.
Yeah, that's it, right? So if on that
Okay.
one, if we could reach out to them just to clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't
Yeah.
been eating much either. That's right.
And then for the dry hydrant, we just moved the other one too, because they were told they had to write a letter every year for the dry hydrant.
I'm not sure if they have been told that. I don't know if that's what's been happening. We've been budgeting for dry hydrants every
Okay,
year and
but
providing
that's
funding.
that's what we were told.
But,
From council, I was told to tell them that, and that's what they were told.
Yep. So yeah, we can just reach out with them to make sure we're on the same page for how many dry hydrants they want.
Okay, it's only, they wanted the one from last year and the one from this coming, so again, that's just an error.
Wording, yeah.
Yeah, no, well, they put it in because they didn't think they got the money.
Yeah.
Okay, and certainly, so, under direction, if you would deal with that, thank you.
Ministers of Fisheries Oceans. Oh, sorry, talking to myself.
The next is the Smiths Cove Fire Department resolution. And this resolution is for the principal amount of $214,000 to use for a rescue utility vehicle. And the money is already here, right? That's how I read it?
No, you guys have to pass this resolution so we can send it along to municipal affairs for that.
But they've already gone through the process, they checked with the people?
Yes, and this is they're looking to borrow the money from the bank, so we are guaranteeing their loan.
Okay, so this doesn't mean this, it's not to do with the rate increase or anything. Okay, that's what I wasn't sure of.
Will there be a rate increase for Smithco residents?
No.
This would just come out of their general regular funds.
That's what I misunderstood. I thought it was a rate. Yeah.
Also, as an interesting note, I heard the Smiths Cove has more than doubled their volunteers, and it's so crowded that they have 2 meetings, one and then another meeting after, which is kind of cool because they were down to 2 or 3 people there for a little while. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Is it 32 or something?
That was this 32, 10 times what there was. See, that's good.
Well, it sometimes helps. People realize they have some time.
Spare time, yeah.
I've been
So,
some people that
Could we have someone move to approve
dry hydrants.
Motion to
the
approve this one.
fire department resolution?
Whole thing read, whereas
Yes, please.
Whereas the Smithsco Fire Department is registered with the municipality of the District of Digby, and whereas the Smithsco Fire Department has determined to borrow the aggregate principal amount of $214,000 for the purpose of a new rescue utility vehicle, and whereas the Smithsco Fire Department has requested a municipality to guarantee the said borrowing, and whereas Section 294 6 of the Municipal Government Act provides that a municipality may grant or lend money to or guarantee a loan for a registered fire department for operating or capital purposes. And whereas Section 88.3 of the Municipal Government Act provides that no guarantee of a borrowing by a municipality shall have effect unless the Minister of Municipal Affairs has approved of the proposed borrowing or expenditure and of the proposed guarantee. Be it that therefore resolved that the municipality of the District of Digby does hereby approve the borrowing by the Smithsco Fire Department of $214,000 for the purpose set above. That subject to the approval of the Minister of Municipal Affairs of the guarantee, the municipality unconditionally guarantee repayment of the principal and interest of the borrowing so made, that upon the issue of the debentures, the warden and clerk of the municipality do sign the guarantee attached to each of the debentures and affix thereto the corporate seal of the municipality. This is to certify that foregoing is a true copy of a resolution duly passed at a meeting of the council of the municipality of the District of Digby held on the 22nd day of February 2021, given under the hands of the warden and the clerk and under the seal of the municipality this 22nd day of February 2021.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Easy as that. Dave, you want some?
The next is correspondence. We have the Hillsborough Water Society thank you, the Canadian Coast Guard on foghorns, the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans, and David Bowles.
I was sort of interested in what David Boland had about the aquifer. There was a bunch of stuff there. I'd never heard any of that stuff. I'm actually going to maybe check some of that out. I guess maybe some of those source water protection. So I wonder if there's anything in there.
I had spoke to David, and where the letter was for the town.
Yeah, I know,
And we were copied. David has told me anytime I wanted to sit down and talk with him.
Did he explain it?
That he'd feel free to explain, so.
Okay, maybe I might take him up on that.
So I'm gonna.
I just never heard any of that.
Sure, it'll all be tested before anything gets built there.
They've
I know-
already done the test.
No, but in Weymouth,
Oh,
Mr. Mullen was going to put a hatchery in the old coffin building there, or Weymouth Supplies building.
oh, really?
And before he can do that, he's got to take it to the well and pump so many, like for 24 hours, or whatever, pump water out of it, and then they test the surrounding wells to see if they've got how much it's affecting them or whatever. So I'm sure they've done the same thing down at Digby now.
Yeah, they have.
Is there liners in these settling ponds? Like those sorts of things.
I don't know, but I know they would test how using that much water from the aquifer is going to affect the surrounding area.
They've already done that.
Yeah. So if they've already done it, the results are somewhere. So.
Oh, yeah, and the people in Centerville it's already been talked to every one of those homeowners.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. I'd be curious myself about that information.
Again,
I'll have to ask.
I'll tell you, Joel Richardson is willing to talk to anyone, and he is the VP of Public Relations, and he's been excellent with me.
I've dealt with him before, and it took 3 months for him to move a truck. So, and even at that point, it was only because I was angry at that point. It was absurd. But my experience with him has been extremely poor.
Okay, that hasn't been mine, but we're all different. Next, under general information, Nova Scotia Firefighters Benevolent Fund has come out, and that has been only in existence since December.
Oh, that's brand new?
It's brand new.
There's a real appetite towards looking after our firemen, I've noticed in the last couple of years, that wasn't there before. Like with insurance and the CPP and this, and I think there's another couple I'm not even thinking of the moment.
George?
Under general, I don't see it anywhere else on our thing about the boats that were being removed from. They said one from Weymouth area and one from maybe Digby next time.
Yes.
I saw somebody set that
It's
one
nice
on
to see
fire.
that some action finally being taken on.
And I was going to say, until they were removed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're waiting, yeah.
We'll wait another 2 or 3 years like we did before.
No, but
At least
this
there's
is,
action being.
I mean, I have been on that boat in Sandy Cove to be removed for like 3 terms.
Oh yeah, you have been
This
since
is
I've
the-
been elected.
This is the 4th term, and I
Funny
mean,
today
like,
when I read the paper, I said,
yeah, I mean, but it still hasn't been, neither one has been removed yet.
The Westport method is to wait till the wind's favorable, cut it off, set it on fire, and watch it drift out the passage.
There's no way you can get that anywhere.
Some of those won't drift off.
No, it looks like somebody did set it on fire. Actually, is why I brought that up. I was driving by the other day and it looked like it'd been partially burnt.
Well, maybe they're having.
Now that you've had 10 years of effort, so it'll be burnt the week before you finally get it towed out of there.
It's gonna cost a fortune to get that out there, but I don't mind. It will be gone. Next, under advisory committee minutes, reports was the joint RCMP September 2020 minutes and the PAC January 2021 minutes. Is there any questions on either of those minutes or reports? Everyone jump at once here.
No,
Okay.
good.
Other council committees, did anyone want to bring anything forward? Okay, then we will go to joint intermunicipal minutes reports. The Digby and Apples Development Committee of January 2021.
Digby and Apples Development Committee.
Yeah. That's your,
One of them had been disbanded, but the EDA.
no, it's the
Yeah,
DDA.
Oh, okay. I was just about to say, is
I
that
was
the
gonna say,
DB?
what's the old name, business?
DB Development and Apples.
Industrial Park, yeah.
Industrial Park. Okay, that just sort of threw me off for a second there.
Oh, okay.
Annapolis just isn't supposed to be in there.
Yeah.
Oh, it isn't.
Supposed to be agency.
DD.
DDA.
Oh, it's DDC now.
Yeah, no, it's supposed to be DDA.
Okay, so it should say Digby Development Agency. So that will just be fixed for the next meeting. Thank you.
I was confused there. I assumed it was me. For
Well,
once
I
it wasn't.
automatically knew what it was, so I didn't think anything about it. The next was the Digby Area Recreation Commission, January 2021 minutes, and the Recreation Director, Facility Manager, and Active Living February reports. Any questions? ICE will be going out on March 21st.
First 22nd, yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be, we're gonna do some
It's
stuff
just
for
after March break.
March break weekend.
We're going to have free ice during that time. And,
We're in March break?
yeah. Well, we've been doing it all along, but
Good.
we'll do extra. The next was the Digby Municipal Fire Association October 2020 minutes. And there was a Western Counties Regional Library report.
doing lots of neat things with the library committee, I see.
Well, that's the one that they send out to anyone who wants to know, so I thought we'd put that out. I know George and them, they've got a meeting upcoming, isn't it, George? In March sometime?
March sometime.
Yeah. So then,
If it wasn't so far away, I'd be interested in that. There's all kinds of interesting things going on with libraries. All the time.
oh, it is.
Yeah, March 18th, library.
Okay. The next is outside board committee minutes reports, there were none. And counselor activity reports, and we will start with George today.
Very short and brief. We had a meeting with Gary Burrell, which was, very, very nice to see him take the interest to come in and actually spend some time with us. My few other regular meetings and stuff, not all of them, but a month, and a few phone calls with regard to road conditions and stuff. That's it.
Okay. David.
Heard Gary Burrell's talking about long-term care today, which is what we were talking to him about when he came and visited. I heard him referenced on the CBC on the radio. Go outside, let's mention that. Food Bank fundraise, we raised $18,000 last year for 52 individuals. The receipts are going out. And I have on my computer, and it's ready for tomorrow, I'm going to do a fundraising drive looking for monthly donations. So if you can give $100 instead of that, why don't you just give $10 a month or something like that? And that way I won't be scrambling so much. And I got it all written out. It's all ready. It's all ready for flight tomorrow. And then I hit send.
And so are you sending it also, putting it in the
Passages? Yeah, I'll put it in Passages and do it through the various, my good friends, the Christians. They're always so helpful.
Your sister-in-law's looking for things.
Oh, Amy. I email things to Amy because I'm not on social media. So she always, I do. I nominated, because I send her so many things. I gave her a volunteer award a couple of years ago, actually. There's so many things, not so much. The other one, still working on the Conway workshop idea, sort of working on an idea of who would be a committee. We got all these new professional, fancy folks. I was thinking getting them to go on a committee, maybe under the FCDA, and try to advocate for a Conway workshop branch on the islands. And I've talked to. Yes, I have. I'm waiting though for information. I'm going to follow up shortly. So that's sort of interesting. But this is the big one. I'm going to be on I'm supposed to talk to some reporter tomorrow. The mental health on the islands now has 6 adults getting treatment and 6 youth, plus 2 days a month with groups. So that's like a dozen people being served, a dozen spots that were empty that have now been filled up. So that just took 2.5 years of bugging. But it's also about having, that monthly phone call I have. Is I got mental health people in on it, so I'm now monthly able to push what I want. And, I set expectations, I get them to agree, and then I follow up that they meet those expectations. And it's been working really good. So I found out today that they're going to be putting some soundproofing in and making the end doctor's office, which was previously empty in the medical center, soundproof and cozy. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to mention, EHS. I met with 5 top controllers, I don't know what you would quite call them, of the Emergency Health Service group, and it ended up being too difficult to have them come down to the islands because it's so hard to get there, but I felt the meeting went really well. I had representation from the 3 villages and the people who are the volunteers for stabilizing if you're having a heart attack, like with the fire departments. And I started it off with a person telling a story of being with their parent, who it was an hour and a half before the doctor come, and they died in their arms. After that, I went in because there wasn't enough people, and I just thought they should hear it. And then went in and I had a short list of goals, but the main thing is They're negotiating the contract right now for the province, and I got 2/3 of them anyway. We're talking that actually we have these meetings all the time, and one of the gentlemen said, yeah, everybody argues that they're a special case, kind of dismissively, and the other couple were like, no, they actually are a special case. And so I took that as positive, and that they're dealing with it right now. I advocated that within the contract itself there be rewards for having the ambulance on the island, and punishments written into the contract if they're off the island. That was a system that Brian Bowerman used on Westport when he was in charge of Happy Valley Goose Bay. They had problems with emergency health services, and he said they wrote that into the contract, and it made a significant difference. So I pitched that, but also the ongoing relationship, which will begin next month. And I've been able to get so much out of everybody with that phone call. I'm optimistic I'm going to be able to do the same thing with EHS. And I forgot about that one. See, that's what happens when you don't bring your look. And you thought we were going to catch the ferry. Look, no catching the ferry for me.
Well, you'll catch it. It's just not dismissed.
So busy, I guess I was.
Thank you. Angela?
I finished up my municipal finance course, and I did have one question from that. I asked him about the employee deductions, and he said, yes, it's important that you ask the question, but, you know, when you sit on a board, you're actually supposed to see proof that they're paid. And I'm just wondering if the municipal council is responsible the same as a board, that we have to actually see the paperwork.
I would think it would be under the audit committee, wouldn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just not exactly.
Okay, like most boards you sit on, they tell you that you are responsible to ensure that the remittances have been sent in.
Yes, once you register, you're responsible. CRA, your names are.
And so I asked him the question, like he just said, you should be asking about the deductions. I don't think he understood what I meant. So I don't know if we as a council are responsible to see, you know, that they have been paid. Like the board, our board has to actually initial the papers that the remittances have been sent in.
But as a government, I don't think we're the same, are we?
No, your names aren't registered the same. Again, if the audit committee wanted to have a further discussion, there is a process where the two signers for the checks have to initial things, but they do not come before the whole council.
And I thought it could be different for the government. So that was the only question. It was a good course. It was different than what I anticipated, but I learned a lot. And I actually took the Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the webinar about the operating and capital grants, and I found that really informative to help me to look at the financials. And I'm hoping that maybe I can sit with Coralie, like maybe at some point just to go over it so I've got a better understanding. Like I understand accounting, but I don't know it from a municipal perspective, just about the gas tax and the reserves and just a little bit about that before the budget.
Yep. Yeah, and certainly I think some of it will make more sense as we go through it too. But certainly you let us know what that's on. We can definitely do that.
But the woman that did the presentation, I found she gave a lot of information about the fire and all that. So I found that informative. And I did take a course on Saturday with tourism, and it was the Heritage Interpretation course through YASTA, and that was very interesting. And I met with people about the trail in Bear River and the look-off in Bear River. And lots of emails and phone calls about the internet.
Uh-oh.
Good stuff, yeah.
And that's it.
Should all be installed right now.
Matthew?
I've had a lot of phone calls about the internet too. But I do want to say thank you, Evan. Thank you, Ren, for dealing with a lot of those phone calls because it has been very hectic.
Is that where you send the phone calls when people phone? Do you send them on?
Evan was pretty helpful with Facebook messages and just when the whole thing hit the news. People, of course, had a lot of questions, right? Everybody
Yeah.
wants the internet.
I got no phone calls.
Yeah, you may not have been at the meeting.
I hope
David.
Jeff sent him like a Tim Hortons gift card or
So
whatever.
The day of the most recent announcement, Councillor Ross, just for whatever reason, when he shared the link to the story, I don't know what the final number was, Matt,
It
was
was
50
up
plus
to
comments, or
67.
it became, there was more people commenting on that one than there was on the municipal Facebook page about the internet announcement, and Evan jumped in and did a bunch of
Right on.
troubleshooting
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
For councillors, if you get questions, bring the addresses to me.
Yeah.
That's the official,
Yeah.
if you're getting questions, we're trying to kind of sort out a system. The volume's not too bad right now. We're still working on it.
I got a couple
Out of
more
service.
That's
Yeah,
right.
like I said, the project in your area is more straightforward at this point.
I've got one question.
There may get to a point where we get questions down your way. The most recent announcement is more sporadic in Matt and Angela's two districts. So we are continue to field a high volume of callings directly to the office and directly to Evan as well on who's covered in this one.
I got no phone calls at all. I think it might have something to do with. Continue. I won't bother with that.
Met with the Fish and Game to help, like I said, this winter, helping them realign, get ready. We're hoping to that we'll be able to get out this summer. They booked some plans for I think the end of June. They want to start if they can, but helping along with that stuff. And of course I've been dealing with some road condition stuff. I've had a bunch of unique phone calls that I'm dealing with, and it's been busy. It's been a busy month. I'm finding as the more we go on with this COVID, there's more issues that are going to come up. If it's not community grants, I've dealt with a little bit of the homeless stuff. It's getting. I don't want to say it's getting. Well, people are aware.
Yep.
And I hope that it's nice to see that some of the restrictions are off now. I know it's sports and stuff, and if we can get through March and April, get things turned around, it should be better. So I won't say about that. But other than that, it's been a busy month. That's it, Linda.
Thank you.
Sorting warden.
Linda works. Just to go over mine. First of all, we've had an audit and finance meeting with WasteCheck. Also, I attended a webinar on anxiety, mental health in the boardroom, which was actually quite interesting because sometimes in the boardroom, we're trying to put on our best faces, and our mental anxieties from our home, especially during COVID, I'm waiting for the papers to send me the link. Okay, everyone. We also had holy brat. I love that one in accent. I also had a mayor's warden's meeting, and it really wasn't a lot of information. I'm trying to be nice. I don't know how to say that meeting was. It was like, we were there, I think, to meet, to tell us all that we're here. Would you say there was really much coming out of that meeting?
It was a very light agenda, and I think the host or the chair was called away moments before, so it was a step in, which literally was on the other side of the province with Zoom, and so yeah, the agenda, I think it would be fair to say, was a relatively light agenda, largely discussion based.
Yeah,
Is that the one?
I thought it was a waste of time of my night.
Is that the one that Jimmy used to go to, and they're like, tell us 3 things about your riding, and then the 2 hours was just that? I remember him giving a.
Well, actually,
they were structured a little different in the early stages, but it would be the same sequence of meetings that they kind of evolved, and then there have not been very many at all.
No.
Didn't seem information heavy or agenda heavy. It was sort of like almost like a social introductions or something.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's how it seemed to me.
I mean, I just expected a little bit more, but as he said, little things happened all at once, so I guess you have to put it off. Also, I went to another webinar, which was Integrity at the Top, what the Governor General's resignation teaches boards.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They talk about when people are having problems with their boss and nobody's listening, and where people should go. I mean, and they showed that clip of Trudeau saying how wonderful it was. They were so glad they picked her. And then when it all came out about how awful she was to everybody, and him saying, well, sometimes we make mistakes from what we see, and blah, blah, blah. But it was actually an excellent webinar. I am finding that that's the one opportunity that's out there. There are so many webinars available that you sort of have to pick one and go, whoa. I'm going to say I have been dealing with what used to be called the old dash on affordable housing, and I'm going to get to that in a few minutes, but I'm not quite there yet. Also, at 1:30 today, we met, or on Zoom, I met with an MP from up the line who's meeting with the finance minister, and it was the different mayors and wardens of the Southwest District, and you know where did we find our concerns were, and I brought up for us I'd like to see the increase of the gas tax with less restrictions, and his comment was they'd like to see something that we're doing with that gas tax. Apparently, the province gets everything, but they haven't. It doesn't matter. It's something we will be checking into. The other thing I brought up was about Build Canada and how everything goes up if we have a Build Canada. So his comment was if we get the extra money, there would be no Build Canada. So I'd be happy with that. Mayor Mood brought up housing, affordability, but again, I don't mind giving away a building, but we want to be careful that affordable housing stays with the province and the feds, and that money's not coming out of us again. Because we used to have it, and we gave it, well, the province took it back. So I just don't want it to download on us.
Well, they kind of already can't they, with how it's set up now? If they have any sort of debt,
that's for us, but we're talking about building buildings. You don't want to have to end up building buildings.
Bricks and mortars, no thank you.
Yeah, that's just, that was a concern. There was also other concerns about the rent and, how well the rent is doing, and they wish the feds would give money to the rents.
Yeah.
Like it used to do.
Yeah, I remember that. That's right. It was a three-way thing. I forgot about that. Adidas, remember?
Sorry about that.
Yep. No.
So,
scandal.
So how they would be. I attended a policing meeting in Bridgewater this past week. I also was on an end-of-life fishing gear engagement session, and I actually was not happy about the meeting because they're there to hear what we have to say, but they kept going back to what they felt. And the bottom line is, with fishing gear, I think it's the fisherman's concern. I do not think municipalities should be paying. I don't care if they want to do a fee up front like you do tires. And one comment was, well, we should just take their stuff in and sort it ourselves. Well, that's actually against the province's mandate. Everything has to be sorted or you can be fined for that. and how could we do it for one industry and not every industry? They thought perhaps another idea was that the municipalities have 2 days, like a,
Like
you know how we do our
white
white
day.
goods? White goods?
Yeah.
And we do that just for the fishermen, twice a year.
Geez, I don't.
No, you could still have
That's
a
not
tax,
that bad.
you could still have a tax on rope, on lobster.
Oh, yeah, and then but again, we can't start picking up all that.
No, but I mean, they could do that and create a fund to help retrieve some of this stuff.
You work with them, not take responsibility of. There's
And that was something else. So my comment was, they talked. I asked them about ghost gear, and they said that isn't the subject today.
What?
That wasn't
Isn't
the subject.
that what?
And my comment was, if we're talking about end of life gear, and I just, look, it went to the bottom.
Yeah.
That's ghost gear,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I said, I think that's a part of it too. So I said to me, if you had charges on things, people are more apt to bring them in so they could get their $10 back, or 5 of the 10, or whatever.
Oh yeah, $10 on a trap wouldn't be much. It'd be just enough for them to probably bring it up, or $20 a trap.
Yeah, whatever. And there were people there from Quebec, Maine, New Brunswick, PEI, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland.
And everybody's municipalities are taking it except for us.
No, none of them are. None of them are.
Guess.
But it was just funny because they kept saying the municipality should be doing this. Municipality should be doing that.
It doesn't sound good.
Hopefully they said they were taking notes, and again, I'll send that report out to council once I have it.
Yeah, we have a lot. It's gross the amount of stuff that's sitting on the bottom.
Oh, yeah. And let me see. Of course, I have been asked, and I will be doing a call tomorrow with the Betterment Association, also known as the Acaciaville building. They want opinions of what I think. And,
that building.
Yeah. So I have an hour call on that tomorrow. A letter came in that said they would ask us. And I think that pretty well covers, there was a couple other meetings, and again, my concerns, the concerns that I'm hearing is, of course, internet, the cost of fuel that's going up. People are concerned why it's going up so fast and so rapid. And the other concern, of course, is the affordability of rents and how high the rents are in low-paying places. So now, from then, this was the recommendations on the addressing affordable housing in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia.
Yeah, I read that.
So they talked about what's happened since the fall of 2013. They built a 4-unit project in Hebron.
It's so expensive too to build these things. It's just you're into
The rent is
so
$750, but for that $750, it includes heat, lights, and hot water. If you earn, your income cutoff. If you earn more than $33,500, you can't go into these places, which is a little different, huh? Then, no.
What do they do for the guys that are on welfare? They don't make enough to give you $750. I know guys very ill, cancer, $750 a month. That guy's living.
There is a supplement that can be done.
Yeah, it would be like even I think his entire pay. Yeah.
Oh, that's but they have to have that much. They're showing you the affordable construction history by the year. See how it.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah. And keep going.
Is green the demand? Was it?
Yeah. The waiting list. Can you see that waiting list?
Yeah.
People are waiting years
Yep.
to get in.
Is this, I'm just curious, is this like the Island Manor? Is that what they're talking about when they talk about these?
No, this is a totally different thing.
Remember the Island Manor?
It's yeah.
It was half full when we first got, now it's permanently full.
Yeah.
In 10 years.
It's only
10
10.39 years.
You're dead by the time you, yeah.
They're trying to get the wait time reduced to 5 years. Right now, pretty well, the only way you get into these units is if someone
Dies.
leaves.
Yeah.
Or goes to long-term care.
I like the way I just said it, leaves.
Moves to
For
long-term
whatever
care.
reason.
Could be that, could be.
I can't wait to go.
Could be long-term.
What the recommendations was trying to improve the programs that are working now. Power control over funds and programs to be given to the municipalities, which I was not for.
Yeah.
More government-owned and social public housing to be built and solutions for the income crisis. But again, power control over funds and programs should stay with the province. So that's why I'm bringing this up. And it just, the recent program changes that impact, they will only fund a minimum of 4 unit and a maximum 50% of the units in the building is 8 units. And it's because they want you to have a mixed-use neighborhood. But it's very, and the other thing, they're finding it very hard if there's no municipal sewer or water services where they want to build.
This is too
That's
much.
another added cost.
Too big.
Affordable agreements are also only 15 years, and they want it longer.
What's in the affordability agreement? Who's signing that? Who's that between?
That's between the person who owns those homes and the government.
Oh, okay.
There's a rent supplement program,
I make advantage of this for people.
which will pay 30% of the gross income. There's also, they want to change the seniors heating rebate program so that tenants whose heat is included in their rent can apply for the rebate. And I don't know how that would ever work because
That's a problem. That I've had this problem a bunch of times. People be tenants and they have $0, and that $200, well, they can't get it because they don't pay their rent directly. They're just paying it through their rent.
because it's included in the
Yeah,
rent.
I mean, you're screwed permanently.
But I don't know how it would ever work. And then they said the other thing is on the new Affordable Housing Commission, it's heavily weighted with HRM and CBRM. Rural communities need to be there, and also there is no, I believe this is where they said it, there is no NSFM members on there either. And I think,
Really?
yeah.
So it's just those two and what, 1 or 2 people, or?
Well, it's mainly, there's a bunch of them, but mainly those areas.
That was a lot of the theme of the phone call that Linda and
Yes.
I referenced was, so there's a relatively large disagreement being waged between NSFM and the Department of Municipal Affairs, which also has housing in it now, over, there's been, I think, 3 separate appeals to have someone either from the municipal world, and the first hope was a warden or mayor, and then it was just a representative. They said they didn't want it to be political, so then they said, what about the executive director of NSFM? She's an employee and not political, and that request was denied.
So it's extremely political, but
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, we're just
And-
off the
and what
politicians
gets
being catered to.
Well, what they're saying is, as a group, we should not be above any other group, but I don't consider.
Oh, as in all of us should be on the bottom, being ignored.
Well, we're not the group. We're not a group. We're a municipal government.
Yeah.
And that's what annoys me when I'm told that I'm a group.
Yeah, so there's a lot of sensitivities around that commission, I guess was all I was looking to.
Yes. They want to have properly fund the current public housing stock, which is a mess. And I don't think there's too much more here. Oh, build more public housing. Again, that's got to come from the province. The private sector can do so much, but it needs help. And it says here, from the choice report, core housing need is defined as spending more than 30% of your gross income on housing. So
Everybody in the country.
But if your income is $500 a month, right?
Yeah.
How could you pay $750?
Yeah.
30% is $150 a month, right? So again, they like to see wages move up, again, we have to look at why there is economic issues and how we're leading out of the crisis or staying in it.
Yeah, trickle down turned into trickle
So,
up.
and they said we need to act today, advocate more, and invest in the policy and regulation changes, which I agree with. But to me, it's got to be the province, and we advocate for it. But it's the province. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I thought it was odd how you delivered this via your counselor's report. I just thought it was a little bit different.
Well, it was just because I didn't know where else to put it.
Okay. I normally would have thought.
And that was a big one because it was on housing.
I thought maybe business item or information, maybe, but you wanted to go through it.
I wanted to go through it because it was something important that we have to be careful that we don't get mandated into this.
They'll give us $1 million a year to run it, and then the next year they'll remove the funding. Something along those lines.
It's so hard.
It's so expensive.
Okay.
I feel
now,
like they have 10 units, $5 million.
The next thing we're going to do, we have a personnel issue, so we need to move in cameras. So can I have someone?
Motion to move in camera.
Is there all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.